welcome all to this session on I think what I feel is a very important career topic, especially for today's generation, which seem to want to think about what to study now and therefore what should be the career for till retirement, right? So I think that's why I thought this is a very important topic. Personally, I have pivoted a few times, but not obviously at a leadership role. So my first time was I was 5 years into work. I was in auto finance with Ford, with Kotak, and then in Toyota. Then I did not find it very interesting, so I went out to do my masters, and then when I came back, I joined. A startup in the analytics space, much at its infancy in 2004, called Marketix, and then so that got and that was that for was with that for about 5 years, and then that got sold, and then and that time I decided I should be in academia, so there was a second pivot, and then I did my PhD and then got into academics in XLRI. So that's personally I've seen the benefits of doing that, but yeah. But when it comes to a senior level pivot, the first thing that comes to my mind is the iconic dialogue, do you want to sell sugared water or change the world, which was what John Scully was asked by Steve Jobs, right? And this, when John Scully moved out, then he started Apple, then he had this real trouble coming by and had some very tough decisions to take and so on. So I would like to hear what you think about what really motivates people to pivot, and from earlier conversations I've seen we have quite a lot to talk about in that. What motivates people to pivot at senior levels, right? And then what can be possible issues that they face, and what kind of benefits do the other organizations actually get from having somebody at that level coming in?
So I'm sure there are many factors that people will have for a pivot. I can talk about at least what I know and why I moved, or as you said, pivoted some of the things as well. Hopefully that sort of resonates with a few more as well. So I'm a very so just from a background perspective. I did my B-Stat and M-Stat from Indian Statistical Institute. And the reason I'm saying this, because while getting into colleges at that time, engineering and doctor was the only two things that you could do. And all my family is engineer or doctor. And I got through engineering as well. But like you mentioned, I think we need to think about not what's happening today. We need to think about what might be happening tomorrow. And my brother calls it, you're playing a bet, jua khel rahe types, right? You are placing a bet when you are thinking of these things, which I believe absolutely is true. Just got lucky that data science and all of that started to make a hot seat after I graduated. So my journey went from GE, where I spent 5 years in actuarial and insurance analytics. The reason I pivoted from there to Deloitte, two main reasons. One is that actuarial was a very study-oriented subject, and you have to clear certifications and things like that. I had my first baby, and I'm like, I'm done with my studies, so I don't want to do any more studies. And given my background, analytics was a much more wider, broader, lucrative option. And the second, a lot of my mentors in GE told me that I'd be a better consultant than an industry. And I followed their path, and therefore I joined Deloitte. And they must have been right, because I spent like about 13 years. And other pivot that I did is, from my technical role, I understood that will not take me to partnership path. Right. So it's like the classical T thing that you have to do. So obviously build my depth into analytics, which was great. But then I had to make it across, otherwise I'll not get to the next stage. So I pushed myself very hard. I'm not an MBA or anything like that. Pushed very hard on people management, understanding of P&L, finance understanding, all of that stuff, which I pushed myself hard to get to a little bit more broader, picked up an industry, did a little more broader, things like that. So that is where I, and thankfully then made to a partnership. And then the next pivot that I did was after spending 3-4 years. And the reason and the motivation was, I will say twofold. One was moving out of comfort zone. I will always give training lectures and big MBA colleges, they'll call me and all of that stuff. So I'll say, move out of comfort zone. And I realized I have not moved out of my comfort zone for quite some time. So that was primarily one reason, to be very honest. I wanted to really see what it means so that I can sit here and at least talk about the stories. The second big thing was that in my analytics journey, life sciences was a big miss. And the role was innovation and strategy, so it was different as well. So I literally moved myself out of complete comfort zone, say, let's see what we can do there. A lot of learning, so we can touch upon that later on. But then I moved back to Deloitte because I was just telling him, I just got a call back saying they need me back, so I'm here.
So Deloitte, then somewhere else, and Deloitte back.
Yes, yeah, Novartis. I joined Novartis.
Okay, Novartis. Okay.
But these were my big, pivots. One was don't want to do study, and analytics was more broader and all of that. So that's one. Second was more broader, doing other things outside of analytics, and the third was moving out of comfort zone.
See, I just want to kind of add on to that, right? When we talk about pivots can be at multiple levels, right? Pivots can be from an individual contributor role to a team lead role or a team management role. That could be a pivot too, and many of us have seen people work up to 30 years as an IC,
Right.
not wanting to manage people. So that's a big pivot when they do that. Pivots can be across industries. Pivot can be across functional roles, right? You can move from A to B to C. So I think as we go through this, we'll also slice it at those levels and look at it. It'll be interesting for us to look at it in that context. Just to add on to this, let me give you my complexity. I started my career as an HR guy.
Right.
And that was about 38 years ago. And by the 15th year, I was doing a global CXO role for, at that point of time, a 30,000 people company. And then the reason why I shifted, and I think you said, what triggers you, right? For me, the trigger was, it was getting to a stage where every time I wanted to do something else, they will say, but what will happen to HR? Right? I mean, it was almost like, Hare, if you leave, then what will happen to HR? Now, I think it started realizing that your strength was becoming your weakness. I mean, it was a great strength to have, it felt nice, but I realized I could die in this, yeah. And so, eventually, therefore, when we, got the best employers from Mercer and Hewitt and all that, I said, I have to leave HR and took a pivot from a very inside-out role called HR to a very outside-in role called marketing, right? Completely outside, and that too for an IT services industry. It was probably one of the most, I think across the industry when I look, later on there have been many people who have moved from HR to marketing. But when I did that back in 2007, it was like ridiculously funny for many people. And to answer your question, when you move into a new role, you realize how incomplete you are, right? You realize you don't know anything. You thought you knew everything, but you walk into the role and you realize you don't know anything. And you have to have the humility to completely drop all your ego, go work with the last guy in the team, like 3 months, 4 months, you have to work with those guys to understand how they do, right? Like starting with inside sales, what it means, to going up to marketing and campaigning, and of course, whatever we did. So yeah, so I did marketing pivot. And then after running that for I think it was almost 5 years, I said, again, I need to reinvent myself. And CP being CP, my Tech Mahindra CEO, he said, if you want to do business, then I think he'll let you go ahead and do technology consulting. Right now, that's as weird as you can get, right? To performance engineering and computing issues. So I moved I continued to do marketing, but I moved to do technology consulting. And I ran a $300 million business for about 2-3 years before I realized 30 years of technology was boring me out. So I took a pivot from technology to healthcare. And so moved into healthcare. And I now run that company as a CEO. But I have to tell you that the joke about it is I walk into that company and I have like 45 doctors and specialists, and I have some 300 phlebotomists and all of that. And my biggest problem was I couldn't bloody spell that phlebotomy ever. Forget spell, pronounce it, okay? So you walk in as a CEO of a healthcare company and you don't know what phlebotomy is. That's where I started in terms of life. But I can tell you today, life has been good because today I can sometimes look at a HRCT and tell you whether you're a RAD 3 or a RAD 4. What I'm saying is you go through that process of learning, you know nothing about it. You look at cholesterol readings today, I don't have to go back and check the reference ranges. I can pretty much say, right, whether it is off the grid or otherwise. So I'm saying the way you have to pivot, what makes you do that is your curiosity to reinvent yourself. Is your willingness to say, I don't know, till you tell yourself, I think I know. You can never say I know. Because when you believe you know, you've lost it. So you have to continue to say, I think I know, I will figure this out. And so that's been the exciting part of pivots for me. So I'm a living example of having tested my life throughout.
So how about yours? Think about corporate to startup or the vice versa. I don't know which one is it.
I think my whole life has been pivots. But to carry on from what Hari is saying, I think what has been the uniting factor is who I am, right? Who I am is curious. The curiosity for how things work, what problems exist, what possible solutions could there be, and can I help solve some of those things? I started out of college as an entrepreneur, although it was a trading company, right? And this is way back, telling my age, back in '91. I did that for a little while, went into what people would today call skilling. It was body shopping in those days, right? Giving people skills here to get them jobs in the US. And again, that was entrepreneurship. Although it was a friend's company, I was helping him set it up in India. We sold that company. And then, like I said, it was also a series of accidents for me. That happened. I'm sending a bunch of people to the US, so I figure if everyone's going to the US, let me also go to the US, see what's going on. Worked in the US for a few years in the tech space. That was my pivot from being an entrepreneur to being corporate. So I worked with PeopleSoft. We got acquired by Oracle, product strategy, product management. I've also pivoted across functions as well as across industries, because where I went from there was to join my father's company in biotech. But in the middle of all of this, it was more about who am I, what skills do I bring to the table? And so I learned how do you market to a customer in my first set of roles. I learned product management and product strategy in the second set of roles. I learned IP management and business development in my third set with biotech. All of that led me to what I'm actually best known for today, which was forming a company called T-Hub, which is a startup ecosystem player. And all of this experience that I'd gained in these different places came together in this one thing. Right? I could understand different industries, I could understand different geographies. I grew up in England, worked in the US, now 20 years in India. So all of that came together. Each of my pivots were just about being curious about something and seeing what role can I play in that. It's almost, I didn't know the term in those days, but ikigai, right? It was a form of that at every stage. It was me reevaluating what does the world need today, what do I want to add, and where do my skills lie? It's led every single step, and now, of course, I've taken one more pivot. I created T-Hub to be an ecosystem player that helps startups to evolve. I'm today a startup inside T-Hub, so I've done full circle. And it's just, again, what things need to be done. So I felt like building out the ecosystem for T-Hub was great. I want to be building again, and there was a niche for building companies at scale, which the venture studio model fills. And so I pivoted again, more because I felt like I could fill that gap than anything else. I had that hunger to do something, to make a difference and find a problem that needed to be solved. And I think a lot of pivots are based on that.
Yeah, that's
you figuring out that you can solve a problem for something that is not what you're doing today.
So if I may, piggyback on that one, right? So ikigai, absolutely. I think you're yet to come across somebody who tells you in advance that, hey, I'm going to pivot.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Yeah,
happen,
true.
right? So it's always, you pivoted.
Yeah.
It's not I am going to pivot, right? So I think there are like three components to this, if I were to just structure this, right? One is what he mentioned is knowing yourself. What are you really good at? And people really don't change. Things change around them, times change. But intrinsically, who you are is who you are, right? The next piece is circumstances, environments, things change, and then you have to figure out yourself. Now you have things that who you are, and then the things change. And the third and the most important thing, which goes back to our reference of pivoted, is how you used who you are and how you adapted to the environment around you and made something out of it. So every time I go to the B schools, sorry, I've never been to Excel, but I've been to IIM Calcutta. Sure. I know. So I think one of the things I keep telling in my opening, I would say, pitches as companies come and pitch them is, as a leader, I go and tell them that I applied for CAT twice and I failed. And that clearly tells everybody that, hey, you know what? This guy is not great at his aptitude. Great, okay. Now, if you hear it back, what was I really doing? I built probably one of the finest consulting organizations for healthcare, getting brightest minds of India together for a consulting firm. Now, it's as simple as that. I go back to who I am, right? I am somebody who likes to connect with people, understand people, build things. That's just who I am. And the environment that I was in enabled me to take that as an opportunity, go knock doors from the best colleges, bring that. And how I pivoted, I did not build anything before, I just built it. So I think it's about how you as an individual is matured enough, how the institutions like yours is enabling them to look at themselves and say, like, here is who I am. Here is what I'm excellent at, agnostic to age. Agnostic to age. And then look at how is your environment. Are you aware of your environment? I think these are the three things. You, the environment, and what you really do with it is what you pivot. So that's been my experience. Like everything that I've done in my career has always been anchored around who I am. And I must also tell you that I failed. I got into environments where I was not able to apply who I am, and I failed. I don't know what you want to call that. Pivot opposite, or what do you know what I mean? So I think it's always what happens. Correct. It's always after the fact. I mean, sometimes you pivot, sometimes you don't, and that's what it is.
So I think Subbu raised very good contrasts between what Hari has said. If I put both of them together, for every pivot, you need at least one anchor. Anchor could be your skill, could be your soft skill, hard skill, whatever, or an organization which is supporting him at the same time. You can't pivot in vacuum.
Yep.
Go back to Srini's Ikigai. Ikigai is that imaginary three-way match and the intersection between three of them. Yeah, one of the circle goes missing and you have to go find it sometime. That could be a driver. But I strongly believe in what Subbu says, in my case, it's a 7-year each kind of formula apply. I can't sustain anything beyond 7 years, and probably very similar thing Hari pointed out. But his main skill is to start something, realizing that he can achieve it, build the skill on the way, and execute it, and move on in life. So there is nothing called perfect pivot. And you will fail probably 50% of the times. I did. My first pivot was, I'm a mechanical engineer, not from IIT. I can't tell you the college name, one of the lowest. Applying the same principle, Subbu. And I worked with my father teaching management science and computers for 3 years. So then literally ran away from one day because I couldn't get out like Hari was asked to do HR forever, to Chennai, and did special effects. I worked for the movie Jeans as a special effects person. Then I realized it's a great hobby to talk about, very bad job. 5,437 rupees in Chennai is not enough. Not enough for old monk also, never mind the rent. So then that's a bad pivot. So I went back to my computing and got body shopped, and it's history. But I did n number of pivots. So mechanical engineer, working with parents, special effects artist, white hat hacker, auditor forensic guy, did one of the largest forensic engagements in the country, to innovation head, to just running 3 startups, living next to these 2 guys now. Literally living also, we all live in the same community. So it's, but my belief is it's better to do pivot more often and then fail rather than selling sugar water. Coming back to you.
Just to take from there, my take is that when you're making these changes to your life, I don't think that you have a great objective and motive very clearly defined when you're doing it. So that pivot, in hindsight, you look at it as a pivot, but at that point, there's certain things that compel you to move in that particular direction. I believe sometimes stepping behind and stepping back also is a very important lever. Okay, so from a very secure job, when I decided to take the plunge into the, the sort of a place which is not really well known for me, it was a very big decision and a very big career pivot, so to speak. Not knowing what is in store. But I think the motivation at that point in time was perhaps money and whatever else, right? So that became one of the things. The next time when I look back now as to, when I did the next pivot, that was at one point in time a lot of sense of ennui, boredom, so I just need to do something else to get my mojo back in life, right? So then that becomes a reason. Now when I look at it, was it a great reason? I don't know, but at that point in time it was so compelling for me to take a decision like that. When the baby came along, the need was to step back, okay? A great pivot to get the balance back in life. And, so it's all about how you look at that situation at that point in time. And that was a very great pivot. And today, I'm in a PE holding company, private equity holding company. Nothing like this that I've ever done till now. And I know this journey is not going to be that smooth, it's going to be bumpy. But today, I think there's a need to pick that up over there.